Hey guys, it's Michelle here, blessed in my mess, and I hope you're blessed in your mess too. We made it through September. September is a powerful supernatural month. A lot of things happen in September in the spirit, and we're at the end of it. I know a lot of people think of October as the big occult month, but that's not true. Actually, August is probably one of the most warfare months of the year, not October. But October has its reasons why, and we're going to get into a little of the myth, the facts, and the fallacies behind what we call Halloween, which is an American custom and tradition that has its roots and origins in Europe and beyond. So we're going to get on a little bit about where the American custom comes from. Why, as a Christian, I still let my children trick or treat, and we do trunk or treat, and we celebrate the season from fall, changing from fall to winter, and why I don't think you should let anybody judge you if you also like to do fun little, silly little things on that day. Because read Romans, we are not to judge each other's special days or feasts if you are totally convinced in your heart. And because I once celebrated Samhain. Samhain is the witchcraft occult Sabbath of the new year. And it is celebrated on October 31st. So, this is where the church did get some stuff from. But if you want to know more all about that and the truth, not the holiday hater pseudo history, the actual truth and facts of why the church assimilated and took this custom into their calendar, and why I celebrate it still today in this fun little kitschy way. So get past the intro. This is me many years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, and then I get into a PowerPoint, which did have audio, but I had to take the audio out and redo it. So that's what you're going to be hearing now. So without further ado, let's get on into this. All right, meet me on the other side. Welcome. Just showing you a little bit of the wreckage the day after a Halloween party. And parts of my home are an absolute disaster. This being one. Total wreck. And why am I showing you this total wreck? Because it makes me vulnerable. For you to see that this mess is hard for me. And so is the topic I'm going to talk about. No, that's not a piece of poo on the floor there. That was a piece of someone's costume. The topic's going to be Halloween. Hi there. I just want to talk a little bit today about why I still celebrate Halloween as a Christian, how I celebrated it as Samhain when I was pagan, and why I think it's dangerous territory when you start making such assumptions as if you're not a true Christian if you celebrate Halloween, you're not a true Christian if you decorate with a pumpkin. That's silliness. It's not a salvific issue. And I'm just going to get a little bit into that today. So I just thought you guys could join me. We're going to get into the history and the origins of Halloween. Yes, they do have some pagan origins, but our modern day American Halloween custom as we have it here in this country is not ancient. And we're going to get into that. Let's go over the real history and the real facts of Halloween versus Samhain, which is what I celebrated when I was a witch, which of course I no longer do. So if you would like to know more about the origins of Halloween, if you would like to learn more about differentiating fact and fiction, and why as a Christian I don't feel convicted not to celebrate Halloween, because I know what else there is. I know what Samhain is. I have celebrated Samhain. And what I do today as a Christian celebrating Halloween is 210% different than what I did as a pagan witch celebrating Samhain. So, without further ado. So let's talk about Halloween. Origins, roots, and traditions. Differences and similarities between modern and pagan practices. This is not your usual anti-Halloween rant.
at all. We're going to be exploring truth. So let's define a few terms. Origins versus roots. As nouns, there is a difference between an origin and a root. Is that origin is the beginning of something, while a root is part of it. Think of a plant. Generally underground, the root is, and it absorbs water and nutrients. Right? That's the origin began with something else. We have to understand, though, the origins of everyday is God. The God of the Bible, the God that was set aside that Jewish nation, that later made his redemption available to all, Jew or Gentile. This God made every day. There is no day that belongs to Satan. Every day is a good day for the enemy to try to steal, kill, and destroy. Right? Do you understand this? People will tell you, oh, October 31st, Halloween, that's Satan's day. That is a lie from Satan himself. It is not Satan's day. God made every day. God is the origin of every single day, of every single created thing. God is the origins. And the devil, Satan, Satan, will use it just like he uses everything that the Lord created. You see, October 31st, this day is also the day of Reformation. It was on or around the day of the October 31st that Martin Luther posted his 95th thesis on the Catholic Cathedral. He called out the Catholic Church. He called out papal authority. He birthed the Lutheran religion and the Protestant movement on October 31st. So it may be a day Satan tries to use, but it's ultimately the Lord's day. And the Lord used this day to bring about a great movement, which was the Protestant movement. And today, children go from house to house to get candy or treats, right? But where did this start? Why is it that we do that? We'll hear the holiday hater crowd tell you it's some demonic ritual, where children would go house to house, I don't know, get eaten or burnt as fat for oil lamps. But these are more lies of Satan, okay? The American modern customs and roots, right? So they started around in 1848. Millions of Irish people immigrated. They poured into America because of the potato famine. And they brought with them the traditions of Halloween. So Halloween in its roots stems from what they called Samhain. Okay, the night of Samhain. As ancestors, they kept traditions. They observed the ancestors. They observed, yes, a pagan god. So these are like many things American. They can be traced back to Europe. So the roots of Halloween in Europe stem mainly from Ireland and the UK. Now, the American customs as we know them today have their roots, yes, in the Irish and Celtic people. As influence of Christianity spread into the Celtic lands in the 7th century, a man named Pope Boniface IV introduced what we call All Saints' Day. He said it was a time to honor the saints and the martyrs. This was used to replace the pagan festival of Samhain. Okay. It was originally celebrated on May 13th. And then about 1834, Pope Gregory III, right, he moved All Saints' Day from May 13th to November 1st. October 31st thus becomes All Hallows' Eve. Literally means saint. Hallow means saint. This was used as well to spread the gospel, you see, because on October 31st, the church would feed people. They would feed them fava beans and share the gospel and honor the saints. This wasn't a day for demons. It wasn't a day for people to run around being satanic. This was a day to share the gospel with the pagans who were honoring other deities besides the God of Israel. Okay? This is how it started. They overlapped it with All Souls Day. November 2nd became called All Souls Day. And this is a day set apart by the Roman Catholic Church for the commemoration of the dead. You're not celebrating death. You're honoring those. These hollow days and celebrations would take place over a 3-day period. And what we know today as trick-or-treating began in the about 15th century with the poor. You see, during the All Souls Days festivals in England, the poor people would beg for soul cakes. And these were made out of square pieces of bread with currants, or what we think to be more like raisins. See, families would give them out to people who would go around begging. And then the practice was referred to as going a-souling. It was eventually taken up by children who would visit houses in their neighborhood, and they would be given ale, food, and money. So this is where we get tricked. To this day, this custom is still being going on. Children go door to door on this night. They've bypassed the ale. They've bypassed a few things. But that's where the custom comes from. The Irish used to carry turnips with candles in them to light their way and scare away spirits. When the Irish arrived to America, they found that pumpkins were plentiful and far easier to carve than turnips. Now jack-o'-lanterns are used for decorating people's homes. It is believed, or in theory for the most part, that Halloween as we know it today began 2,000 years ago in Ireland and England and North France with the ancient religion of the Celts. Yes, they were pagan because before Jesus, or Jews, if you weren't a Jew, you were pagan. There is actually no written record from the Celts. There are few historic references in Roman texts to the festival of Samhain. So the truth of the matter is, all these facts that the holiday haters throw at you are lies. There are no written facts about it. There's a few historical references in Roman texts. See, they celebrated their new year on November 1st. This day marked the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time of year that was associated with death. So it was a harvest festival. Animals that would not make it through the harsh winter were slaughtered. Okay? And then the pagans began to celebrate the final harvest. They prepared for the death of their crops, the onset of winter. It was 3 days from October 31st to November 2nd. This is thousands of years ago, guys. So the Celts, and on the night of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain. It was believed that it was the night that the spirits of the dead could return to earth. Now, the Celts believed that the curtain dividing the living and the dead lifted during Samhain, and it allowed the spirits of the dead to walk among the living. This was their belief. This is why we get the idea the veil is thinnest at that time. And people thought they would encounter spirits if they left their homes. So they wore costumes, okay? And some embraced the season of haunting by engaging in occult practices such as divination and communication with the dead. They seek to divine spirits. Spirits, they also call them spirits of their ancestors regarding the coming year or even romantic prospects. Others use this time of year for more darker occult aspects. These are not your average tree-hugging pagans. These are people who indeed are working for the enemy. However, if they work for the enemy every day, not just on October 31st. So to say that a day is set aside and it's the Satan's day is ludicrous. It's the Lord's day. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Let's get our facts straight so that we can, educate other people, and that we can participate in, long time customs and traditions that have their roots in not just paganism, but even in Christianity. It was a time to bring the gospel to the pagans. What a wonderful time, right? So I want you to think a little more objectively about it. So this is what the neo-modern Samhain is. This is totally different from Halloween. This is a religious ritual. It's a practice. It's not the fun, whimsical of children going trick-or-treating. This is, an actual pagan practice. And it comes from very different roots, you see. They are not the same celebration. They are not the same day. God is the origin of all days. God created every day. Every single day is for God. Just because somewhere at some time did something weird or evil on a specific day, it doesn't make that day belong to Satan. Nothing belongs to the enemy. God has allowed Satan dominion over the earth for a time, but everything was created by God, for God. Satan cannot create a day. So to say that October 31st is Satan's day is what we call association fallacy. It means a long time ago somebody associated it with something that somebody else did, and they put in a fallacy over top of it. It is all lies of Satan. You cannot do warfare, and you cannot battle the kingdom if you believe lies that are fed to you by the kingdom of darkness. So let's get into a little bit the difference between, what we do today as a modern secularized holiday and what people do that celebrate other things. So today, you see, Halloween is an American secularized festival day of food, fun, and frights. It's not a holy day. It's a custom, which is secularized. All Hallows Eve is a Catholic holiday. Samhain is a modern-day pagan holiday practiced by witches to celebrate their Sabbath. So today, people on Halloween, the American holiday, take children trick-or-treating, they decorate pumpkins, they have parties, they eat candy. None of which is inherently evil. Today I celebrate with small family gatherings. Maybe we go trick-or-treating. I give out candy. It is secular. Aside from the opportunities I have to speak about Christ speckled throughout the evening, and maybe even give out with the candy little scriptures, it's secular day of fun. Okay? It's human beings understanding themselves through the seasons of life and the cycles of nature, and that's how it started. But today, modern day, I do not celebrate it all like I did when I was a witch. See, I have celebrated all three. I have celebrated both Halloween with my children. I have celebrated Samhain as an occultist. Yes, with my children at that time. We didn't do anything sinister other than witchcraft. No one was sacrificed. We read tarot cards. We had altars to the dead. And I attended secret rituals. That's Samhain. That is not at all what Halloween is. Those are two different things. And the holiday hater crowd will have you combine them and overlap them with each other. Now, we have to understand that, there's cultural differences too. What may seem odd and different of one culture is just their way of understanding death and moving on into the afterlife. Yes, Samhain was a time of magic. It's a special night of magic for those. Samhain witches from across the local area I live would gather on a mountain. We had food, fun, we did rituals, we sang songs, we danced, we feasted. However, it was all to idols, to ancient gods and goddesses. And that's what Samhain is, guys. So you don't have to be, Are there some people out there that are doing really nefarious, dark things, sacrifices and animals? Probably, but they're not right in the head. Okay? And there are people that are the deep, deep, deep echelons of the occult. But most modern day neo-pagan witches and pagans, they're not doing things like that. They're celebrating death and renewal. They're feasting. They read tarot cards. They contact the dead, which we know are demons. I mean, it was fun. It was mysterious. It was compelling. And it was a lie. Right? God saved me after 18 years of being in the occult to varying degrees. And I was getting deeper and deeper. Yes, I have done voluntary blood rituals, where you use blood to seal a ritual. You know, so yes, I acknowledge Halloween these days for the kiddos in my life. We bake treats, we watch silly, scary movies, we trick or treat, and do other fall activities. Because it's nothing like what I did when I celebrated Samhain. We do not celebrate Samhain, nor do we do divination or any other witchcraft as once before. Let me get you to disputable matters. Romans 14. Everyone should read Romans 14, except the one whose faith is weak, without quarreling over disputable matters. One person's faith allows them to eat anything, but in others whose faith is weak, they eat only vegetables. One who eats must not treat contempt the one who does not. And the one who does not eat everything must not judge the one who does, for God has accepted them. Who are you to judge someone else's servant? To their own master's servants stand or fall, and they stand, for the Lord is able to make them stand. This is a disputable matter, okay? It's not a salvific issue. If you take your kids to a trunk or treat or trick or treating, you're not probably going to hell. Now, if you're celebrating Samhain and you're running around with witches and you're in the occult and you're dancing naked at a bonfire and you're offering offerings to ancient gods, then we got a problem, okay? What one person considers one day more sacred than another and considers every day alike, each of them should be fully convinced in their own mind. Whoever regards one day as special does so to the Lord, and whoever eats meat does so to the Lord, for they give thanks to God, and whoever abstains does so to the Lord, and gives thanks to God. So give thanks to God. If you have the means to give out candy, give it out joyfully. Then why do you judge your brother and sister? Or why do you treat them with contempt? For we all stand before God's judgment seat. I am fully convinced the way I acknowledge Halloween today is not against God. If I was not convinced of that, I wouldn't do it. I am fully convinced that I actually know what Samhain is, why it's celebrated, and why it's done. Halloween, as we practice it today in America as a custom that has little to do with ancient gods and more to do with commercialism and the almighty dollar. It's more dangerous to judge someone's salvation based on Halloween than it is to take your children trick-or-treating. Did you hear me? That's more dangerous. All this nonsense about a true Christian does not acknowledge Halloween is dangerous territory. It's arrogant. Only God knows a person's heart. Acknowledging Halloween is a disputable matter. It is not a salvation issue. So whatever you believe about these things, keep them between yourself and God. Blessed is the one who does not condemn himself by what he approves. But whoever has doubts is condemned if they eat, because their eating is not of faith. And everything that does not come from faith is a sin. Did you hear that? Everything that does not come from faith is a sin. So, if you're not putting your underwear on by faith, guess what? You're sinning. No less than the person who gives out a candy on Halloween if you're a holiday hater. Right? It didn't come from faith. So let's be sure that we're thinking logically about these disputable matters. The Bible clearly states the days you honor, the holidays you have, the feasts you eat are disputable matters. And it is the people who judge that who are actually the ones weak in faith. I'm strong in my faith, and I have all the faith in the world that my God loves me. And he looks down on me when I'm carving pumpkins with my granddaughter, and he smiles because we're doing something together, and we're talking about the pumpkin, and we're talking about tradition, and we're talking about Jesus while we're doing it. In fact, our American custom of Halloween is only as old as the turn of the century. When the immigrants from Ireland came to America, yes, thousands of years ago, some people celebrated a seasonal pagan harvest festival, which was at the time of the year the crops died. They believe spirits roam the earth on this night. It is the same night of the year, but it's hardly the same meaning today. In this American secularized holiday. To be more factual, Halloween, or All Hallows Eve, was the very first alternative to Samhain. It was a day for sharing the gospel for the church to the pagans. Yes, All Saints' Day was moved to coincide with Samhain, the pagan festival. It was the closest feast the church could get to that day. I do not fear October 31st. I refuse to give any day to the enemy. I choose to let Jesus' light into that darkness, because this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, right? Every day is for the Lord. Satan owns no day of mine. Okay? So that all being said, what I want to mostly impress upon you is that the scriptures say you must be fully convinced in your own mind. Do you see? That's the difference. We all have our own unique individual walk with the Lord, and he knows our heart. He knows why we do or don't do things. So, what I would say to you is, if you are not completely convinced that you're doing anything in error, then don't participate. But if you do not treat the day as an exclusive day for Satan, then it's just merely another day. Or, as a Christian, do not give Satan any power by acknowledging any day belongs to him. Simply do not participate and go about your business. Don't draw more attention to the day if you believe in your heart it's evil. The best way to deal with the devil is just to ignore his antics. Don't judge other people. Don't point your fingers. Because if you're convinced in your own heart that's not what you should be doing, then don't do it. However, do not judge others who celebrate the American custom as we know it of Halloween. You see, my salvation is not hinged upon whether I celebrate a Gentile custom. I believe Jesus was the Son of God. He suffered, died, he rose again and ascended. He sits at the right hand of the Father. I do not practice witchcraft. I let my kids dress up and have fun. Ooh, the horror of it. Then why do you judge your brother and sister? Or why do you treat them with contempt? For we will all stand before God's judgment seat. Romans 14:10. Do you know Jesus? I'm sure you have heard of Jesus, but do you really know him? Have you asked him into your heart, your life? so you can live for him and do the works the Father desires? If not, just say a little prayer today, asking God to simply reveal his Son to you so you can grow and live in Christ, therefore being adopted into the family of God and granted eternal life. And you don't have to worry about silly little things like disputable matters. You read your Bible, you do the best to do what it says, but above all, you love God with all your heart and your neighbors and yourself. This is the whole of the law.